0.
It's Radio Zero with Rick and Rose. It came up really easily just now. Wow, that's great.
It's Thursday. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, on the live stream, I don't know what's going on, but my head is exceptionally large and yours is normal sized. So, that's what's going on.
I can't wait to unpack that with you.
You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, radiozero.us. We're live streaming on Facebook on the Radio Zero page and Poster Children page, on Twitch at PCJC USA, and on the Poster Children YouTube channel. Live streaming today on Thursday. Usually we live stream every other week on a Friday at 4 p.m. Central, but things are happening, people.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of storms tomorrow, so we couldn't.
We have a show in Minneapolis tomorrow night, so if you're listening to this later, you've missed it, but on March 31st with Houston at the Ice House in Minneapolis.
What? You had a show? I live right next door. How come I didn't know about that? When are you playing again? Sorry.
No, I mean...
Don't say that to us.
Yeah, and then don't
insult people for not coming to our show.
Who are our fans. You're basically imitating someone who likes our band.
I'm imitating myself. That's what I do. What? I'm sorry. That's terrible of me.
You can patronize us at patreon.com/radiozero. In fact, Paul and Tomoko, it looks like, changed their pledge. So thank you for that. Upwards.
Wow, thank you. That's very nice.
yeah. So that was very nice.
You.
I'm got too many things going on. So thank you to our Patreon donors for helping us out. Helps us live stream, helps us store all the archives of the show. So what do you want to talk about?
I've already
Rose?
been on the radio today.
Have you? You recorded an interview. You haven't been on the radio. It wasn't a live interview.
I think it's the people who I like the most and really respect and know already. When they do an interview with me for a book, it's like, what? I felt so bad after this. After this interview with John Norton. Let's just say it, right? The poor guy, he's gonna have to compile it together and try to make sense out of what I say. And I know I've heard you say that before, but you always make sense.
Well, no, I mean, he's people who know what they're doing it can edit together.
Yeah,
that's part of the job. Editing the interview into coherence, right?
It's just like, what's the next question going to be? What's the next going to... He's like, okay, here's a question for you. And I'm like, and then it's like, with all the stuff that you did in your past, how does that inform what you do now?
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I on the cuff, I tried to spit out something like, well, we were using computers to get our word across, and that's what we do in the whatever place it is that I work now, wherever that is. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't even remember my words and stuff. And I kept looking. I was sitting in the chair that I usually sit in WGLT, and I left your chair there. I should have sat in your chair, because then maybe I would have had the Rick. I could have embodied your talking, I could have talked like you, but I just couldn't. And I just, and then... if I have to answer questions, any kind of gender questions, I'm always very scared I'm going to say something wrong. So my sister's calling. Hold on, we have a phone call. I'm not going to answer it. I won't answer it. Maybe she's calling to be on the air. Can we put her on the air?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that.
Right.
I have no way of just improvising a live phone call. We can organize phone calls and try to get that working, but I can't just make it happen magically.
All right. Anyway, that was my day. I flubbed an interview, and my poor
This is
Poor
so
John's
this
gonna
is
have
an
to.
insight into what I deal with here. Hearing.
Oh, come
hearing
on! You
these
say
kind
the
of things.
same kind of crap all the
Yeah.
time too, except you don't flub things.
All right. So apparently, the grand jury has indicted Donald Trump.
Okay, explain to me how this happens. Like, which grand jury? The one that he put together
Well, first,
of rapists and stuff.
a man who's a reality television show actor has an indecent relationship with a former porn star, and then has his friend at the. Is it his friend at the National Enquirer pay her off? No, that was different. That was something else, where his friend at the National Enquirer paid off people to keep things quiet. He used campaign funds to keep her quiet.
Okay.
And you can't do that. And so it's like an Al Capone scenario.
No,
right?
it's like an Adam and Eve scenario. That's what it is. A woman has deflowered a man who could be a man who would be king. A woman has deflowered him, and now we're having to. All he did was have sex with to me. I actually kind of mean this. Like, this is like degrading to women. This is like, oh no, a woman has caused this man to fall. We can't have him having sex with a woman.
That's not all he did.
Okay, I know he took money to pay it off so we wouldn't know. What the hell is that? Let us know. What obviously nobody fucking cares if he's this is a man who's like, you just grab him by the pussy, make me the president. He had sex with a different woman other than his wife or something, and then I'm going to go on the conservative talk show radios. I'm available, conservative talk show radio hosts. I'm like a liberal who thinks that this is garbage. Every time they pull a politician down, I don't care what kind of politician it is, because he had sex with a woman and didn't cover it up correctly, I think it's a problem. I'm sorry. I think it's bad for women. Kind
of sounded like Trump there.
Yeah.
It's probably what he's going to be saying.
It's like, we need the 14-year-old here, the person who's 14 today, the birthday boy down here to imitate. He does a really good, he even makes his mouth into an asshole, like Trump's mouth. Does really well. Okay.
I don't think it's a bad day. I don't think it has anything to do with women. It has to do with the fact that, there are campaign finance laws, right?
Yeah.
And so this is
he should have spent it on hamburgers or something instead of like making it so we quote wouldn't find out that he had sex with somebody other than his wife, right?
Well, that's not what he's in trouble for.
What's he in trouble for again?
Paying the money, and I believe out of his election, his
and what about the Clinton thing? He had a blowjob with.
Well, yeah, that's different. So he lied under oath.
Yeah.
About it.
So that's bad too, right?
Yeah, but it's
is
yeah.
It
so
bad?
I mean,
is it the same amount of bad? Why is it always involve a woman?
I guess because we keep electing heterosexual men, right? I mean, that's you could say, yeah. So it's not a woman problem. It's a heterosexual male problem, right?
Yeah, why does it always have to do with the sex life or the love life?
I guess.
Why does it always have to do with sex? Why are our politicians falling because of sex and not because they're fucking robbers? Like, why? How come it's not
war criminals
or criminals, right? Why, or liars? Like, not liars, because that's what they're lying about, having sex. So why is it? Why isn't it?
Why is it, Rose?
I don't know. You tell me.
We're
I'm
a Puritan
stupid.
country, I guess. Yeah. We have these weird Puritan ideals, and we worship, business and free market, and being a shark, right? That those are valued, those toxic male characteristics, but for some reason, I don't know. Yeah. Whereas other places, presidents of other countries, right? right, are always indicted because of money, right? And then they have affairs, they have mistresses.
I mean, I'm
like
kind of
French,
really.
like how many French presidents? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of expected that they have a mistress, right? And that's not a problem.
Right.
So yeah, it's a cultural thing.
I-
It's an American thing. It's a Puritan thing.
I mean, it's a hypocrite thing, is what it is. I'm really kind of serious about this. Like, they're out of all the horrible things that this man has done, he's going to get in trouble because he like had sex with somebody other than his wife and
That's
paid.
not what
Now,
he's.
I understand.
That's not the crime.
Okay, the crime was that he had sex with somebody other than his wife,
Is that
and then
powerful
covered
men?
it up.
Yeah, use money to cover things up, right? And then on top of it, they use the wrong pot of money.
What would have happened if he just had sex with somebody other than his wife?
I'm sure that's happened multiple times, and there are cases where he's been accused of rape. So there are cases, and there have been things about
those
that.
are not problems, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just this is, I don't know, well documented, and there's evidence apparently, right? Enough evidence to get him. The grand jury feels that, yeah.
And the grand jury, that's not the same as the Supreme Court. I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
No.
I'm a computer programmer. Just let me program computers. But where does the grand jury come from? I actually don't know this.
Is New York?
Oh, so it's just more New Yorkers
is this a
that hate
state thing?
him.
I don't
This is
know.
not going
I
to
don't
do
know.
anything, right? It's not. Nothing's going to come of it.
Is this state or federal?
I mean,
New York indictment, right? Yeah, so this is a state thing.
Can they even? Doesn't he live in Florida now? What can they do? He just can't come back to New York, right?
Well, he's going to have to come back to New York, I have a feeling.
Oh, and he will too, because he's campaigning for all this. This is all part of the show. And I do hope that he becomes the front runner, in the Republican
Not just
party.
the first former president to be indicted by a grand jury, but the first president, first president to
presidential candidate. I hope he becomes.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
He's running.
I don't know if he's the first presidential candidate. Actually, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
All
an
right.
interesting
we got
small
somebody. Okay.
bit of trivia here.
Joe Chrisman is listening. Isn't it ironic that Donald Trump, who campaigned in 2016 with claims of Hillary Clinton being a crook, now finds himself in a drastically different situation? While Clinton is currently free from legal troubles, Trump faces indictments. It's quite a reversal of fortunes. And that's the other thing, too. Like, I don't even...
Nobody cares, right? Anyone who would achieve, like you'd want some people to have an epiphany, and the people you want to have an epiphany about that would be like, well, yeah, why hasn't Hillary Clinton been
exactly?
indicted?
Yeah. It's just because it's all right. I'm done. I'm done with this. I don't care. What? I think this is part of the election campaign, right? This is part of the campaign.
It's going to be, I'm sure.
Hey, Dan, and happy Thursday to you too. Yeah, it will be part of the campaign. Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to the culture wars. I'm looking forward to being an enemy of the of the people again. For being an educator, I like that.
And also, to be clear, there is, as of right now, we do not know what the charges are. So it's all guesswork right now.
It's just something to talk about for the weekend. Okay. So
Campaign
what else
finance crimes is the speculation.
So here's my little media flashback for you. Why don't you play a song for that? No, other one. Yeah.
Never get the right one.
We were so the college boy is back, and I forced him to watch Ted Lasso. He hadn't watched it, and I thought he'd like it, because it's not any of that doom and gloom that he usually watches and stuff. So I don't remember anything about the first episode, but there was just this beautiful moment where like Ted Lasso and Coach Beard are on the plane. And Ted Lasso turns, they're like, it's Coach Beard says, "Hey, you better go to bed now. You better go to sleep because we're flying to England, and you're gonna have a shortened night." And he's like, "Okay, I will." And he's like, And then he pops back up again like a little kid, in the seat. And he goes, he goes, "Hey, coach." And he goes, "What?" And he says something like, Ted Lasso says something like, let's goof around, okay? If we see each other in our dreams, let's pretend we don't know each other, okay? And goof around a little bit. And Coach Beard goes, "Yeah, okay." And then he goes, "Great." And then he sits back down in the plane. It's just like the most magical, wonderful thing to hear, like a character say. I was like, oh, it's really neat.
Coach Beard, a former ISU student, right? Graduate? Is he graduate? I believe he's a graduate.
I just think that's so cool, And I don't know. We haven't which I'm conflating it with the is that putting it together and mixing it up with the Mandalorian, because the Mandalorian comes out the same day, right?
Oh,
so I'm excited to see what happens. And I was watching the Mandalorian too. Like I'm on season 7 now. I'm very proud of this. I've made it through of the Mandalorian.
Not the Mandalorian. You're
Clone
not on
Wars,
season
I'm
7 yet.
Season 7 of the Clone Wars. Thank you. And I'm like I'm very excited to see Order 66. Like I want to see it. And then I was also talking to the college guy, and I'm like, can't wait to see that. And who's not a geek, not a total geek like I am. And he's like, you can just see it in the movies. And I was like, no, it's not in the movies. And he's like, yes, it is. I was like, no, it isn't. And then he like pulls up YouTube, Order 66, movie. And then I'm like watching it. I'm like, that's not part of the movie. Oh. There's like some kind of flying wombat that one of them's flying around on that I hated.
Which
Muppet.
Which era is that?
The third of the prequels.
The new ones, or no, the third prequel that was still under.
Yeah, I get you right.
George Lucas.
Oh, just so terrible. But anyway, so I was watching that for a while. I was like, oh, but I'm gonna make it through the Clone Wars. It's neat because I didn't know who Ahsoka was. I didn't know who that was at all, and now I feel intimately familiar with her. And there's a couple of Clone War lady episodes where there's ladies, so that's nice. There's like a couple. There's a good one or two at least that I'm pretty sure pass the Bechdel test.
Great.
Yeah, so that's good. All right, that's my media flashback for today.
Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Be a shorter episode.
I'm done. What do you got?
We went to the Art Institute a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, how was that?
You were there.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. All right, yeah. Okay, so a review. Why don't you hit some music for that? A review of art. That is actually pretty funny because the best part of the art museum was we were like screwing around in the miniature house for a while, right? The miniature area.
The Thorn Rooms. Right? Yeah, Thorn Rooms. Yeah.
Well,
what about why? Why is I don't understand. Oh, because it's
What did we go see? The Warhol? I forgot. Dali. Not Warhol, Dali.
Yeah.
Why don't you read from your lyric book the song Modern Art?
Cuz I
just
don't
love that
think
song
that's
so much. I love those
nothing
lyrics.
Good about that.
Best thing ever. That's what I should have done in my interview today. In fact, I love your delivery. I love that song so much. That's my favorite song ever in the whole world, and I got to see it recorded. I love that. All right, so what did you think of the Dali?
I was underwhelmed. There weren't a lot of paintings.
It was just 2 rooms.
A sliver of time. 3 years.
Yeah, and also like you didn't have to pay for it either.
No, yeah, well, we had to pay to get into the museum. Yeah, so it's not like, did we have to pay to go see the Warhol though?
Yeah, I think so.
We did. We had to pay extra.
Yeah, that went on forever too.
It was
all
huge.
Different rooms and stuff.
And I learned something.
Pillows.
I felt like I knew a lot about Andy Warhol, and they had like all sorts of interesting alternate stuff, and then also stuff from, later on. The stuff that's not as good. No, it's just different, right? It was, whereas the Dolly it wasn't a retrospective. It was a sliver of time, a couple of the greatest hits. But yeah, I felt like I wasn't 100% on Dolly going in, and my expectation is it was supposed to be a rehabilitation of him, and I felt like it didn't do that at all. It was just kind of like, okay, he really, there were only 3 years worth showing of work, and that was the thing is Bag Boy said, I said, wow, so the oldest or the newest painting in here is 1938, and he said, did he die in 1938? And I was like, no, he died in like 1988 or 89. It's like there's like another 50 years. And I understand. And yeah,
you should come to Florida with me. Isn't there a Dolly Museum down there?
I mean, it kind of ignored. I mean, that's what's interesting. Actually, that to me would be an interesting exhibit, is like to kind of see how Dolly, I guess, screwed up and Warhol somehow. Well, he kind of squeaked his way through. I guess maybe Warhol
there's a doctorate in there for you.
Died early enough to not completely. No, I feel like Warhol towed the line of kind of becoming a total sellout and irrelevant, right? He didn't go. Yeah, he didn't go full Dolly. He like didn't get weird and turn into what's the.
He got shot though.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe that turned him around.
No. I think people would argue that after he got shot, that's when he kind of went off. Well, no, it wasn't immediate. Just thinking about, for instance, the best Billy Squier record, Oh no, that's not the best Billy Squier record. It's not. I started thinking, has a Warhol as the front cover, right? So it's kind of like that to me says everything, right?
I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean.
My mom was calling, and she's like, "Read my email." So
oh no! Is something wrong?
I have no idea.
Well, is it an
my
emergency?
dad's birthday is coming up.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's an emergency. So
a present emergency?
I don't know.
We have to buy a present before Amazon's shipping window closes.
Uh-oh. Yeah, no, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I didn't get the email. But my sister was calling a second ago too, so it's like, oh, what's going on? All right. But maybe they'll call again if there's a problem. So the Dolly, it was just, but people were really into it, right? People were like, "Oh, look at this!" There were crowds and crowds of people in there.
Well, yeah,
that's what I remembered. Like we were waiting in line to look at the next painting and waiting in line to read the caption or the description.
Yeah, and yeah, it just didn't feel. I don't know. I wanted more out of it. I wanted to, come away with a greater appreciation. And I just came out of it kind of like, okay, these are the greatest hits. I've seen these. And then I'm not,
Well, can you talk about like some of the exhibitions that you've enjoyed over the past, 5 or 10 years?
Well, yeah. I mean, that Warhol exhibit, somebody who is by no means underexposed, right?
Underrepresented.
It's like how they somehow pulled off I guess it was a retrospective, right? That was
right. Yeah.
That seemed, I don't know. It felt like I learned things and found stuff that I didn't know about.
What about all the Nick Cave? I always love a Nick Cave exhibition.
The Nick Cave thing got a bad review when it went. Where did it go? I can't remember where in New York it's at now, but I saw it's not as.
It's because he's from
great.
Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
They just hate him because he's from Chicago.
Classic. Dissing the Midwestern artist
Yeah.
thing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah.
But the Nick Cave at the MoCA, at the Museum of Contemporary, MCA, sorry,
Yeah.
Mass MoCA.
Mass MoCA. That was just a couple of pieces. It wasn't a retrospective either. And that was fine. Yeah. So So that's the thing is maybe I was expecting. I guess what it was is it actually seemed. I guess maybe that's I was expecting something bigger and more expansive and more
Than what you had hanging in your dorm room.
yeah
That's like that for me is just.
But maybe
like,
that's, I mean, if you think about it, I guess that's all it is. I mean, he kind of did just, and I mean, for me, I would have loved to have seen a copy of the Jackie Gleason record with the front cover painted by Salvador Dali, and then on the back side is a picture of Salvador Dali and Jackie Gleason shaking hands with, like, holding, and then I think Salvador Dali is holding the painting. And, it's like, maybe that was the problem, is like, I feel like
I could have done that exhibition better.
I'm just wondering, I guess maybe, and I guess I don't know anything really. I mean, I remember him as a character, right? As like the most famous artist, right? That would be on talk shows and show up and be weird and doing commercial stuff and being kind of the equivalent of, what is that, Thomas Kincaid or something, right? So an artist that you just kind of, oh, I got a dolly, and it's like hanging in my living room, kind of like the dolly shops and all that kind of stuff. I mean, very commercialized and kind of that type of artist. But I think, and maybe there's been an exhibition like that I, like that would explore him as an artist and that tension between, the, being representative of the cutting edge and
making money
and then
selling out
and then being and then other artists, how they learned from that, maybe, or how that informed the way Warhol kind of walked that line.
Okay, I got
or
a
Jeff
question.
Koons, right? I mean, there's a history, of a few decades later of a bunch of artists who are, walking that line. Or then even if you think about Banksy, then who's kind of doing, as a reaction to that, or, doing the anti thing while at the same time being that kind of sort of superstar artist, right? And I guess that's the way you maintain your cool, is by not actually anyone knowing who you are.
So if you're like James Turrell or the dude who's making the Nevada artwork, who's that guy?
Can't remember his
All right,
name.
you're one of those
City.
long artists,
I'm supposed to find out today if we get to go today or tomorrow.
If we get to go to City,
the
artwork in Nevada. How do you make? And I don't need you to answer this. Jeff Elbill is checking in from Wheaton. I have a question for you. A long time ago, when we were first going out, you explained these lyrics to me, because that was back when modern art is an old song, old poster children song from Flower Plower. Okay, and as long as we're talking about modern art, I got to ask you, like to explain some of your lyrics. So first there was Vinnie Van Gogh changed his name to Picasso.
What about it?
Let's go through the lyrics. Okay. So what does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, I as I'm rehearsing that song, I feel like it doesn't hold together like other songs. I feel like it's a little sloppy because it's called modern art, but a lot of the artists that I talk about in there are not modern. It's just kind of a free for all. I guess what I'm talking about is, artist who's, a cutting edge artist, right? Who's completely despised or ignored, right? And then just a few years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have an artist who's
first there
considered
was
the greatest artist of
all time.
This
the
early 20th century, right?
First there was Vinnie Van Gogh. Wait. For something about Marilyn Monroe, then she was Andy Warhol. First there was
also
there's
Marilyn Monroe references too many. In fact, they're two in a row on that record. There's I say Marilyn Monroe or I say Marilyn in Hollywood, and then I say Marilyn Monroe in modern art, and they're right next to each other too. It's just really sloppy, man.
Okay. And then the rhymes in there are really good too. Like uh and
Well,
now I can't even
here's a hint.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're gonna use the word art, just don't rhyme it with something like fart, and then you're gonna be probably pretty good.
I can't find I can't. I'm looking. Apparently Art Brute has a song called Modern Art, fuckers. And then like somebody called Annika Wells. Annika Wells.
Are you looking them up? Or are you
I was
just
trying
saying,
to look up the Poster Children lyrics, but
apparently,
there's other
if you
ones.
search for modern art song, ours is not
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah, apparently
that.
it should be. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where my the receipt is for my request to go see the city artwork to
Hey.
see when it's.
Oh, you- how
I
much
probably
did-
have it snoozed until tomorrow.
Later, son. His birthday is today. I gave birth to a child today. Matthew
Not
Sweet has an
today.
LP called Modern Art. Didn't I? Wasn't it today? Wasn't it like 14
No,
years ago
what
today?
I mean, yeah, 14 years ago. You said I gave birth to a child today
Right. Like today, 14 years ago.
on
On
this
today.
date.
On this date. Okay. So, what else you got? What's on your list?
That was it.
I had something to say. No, I can't remember what it was. Oh, I'm so tired. That's by the way, that's like an insult in like Brazil. I think if somebody asks you if you're tired, you're supposed to say no.
Because
I should not be complaining that I'm tired.
And then if you say you are, it means that you're not
It's not-
engaged.
not pulling your weight.
You're bored with the person you're talking to,
Oh
kind of
no,
thing.
probably not. I think
Oh.
I don't. I know. I think it's. I don't know. It's one of those things I don't understand. Okay, so what did you do today?
What did I do today?
Yeah.
I did work stuff. I got my classes ready for next week. I went to a meeting. What else did I do? Oh, I fixed one of my guitars.
How did you fix it?
I changed the pickups in it early. You saw this happen when we were first rehearsing late last year. I had this guitar, my sort of guitar I've been using for the past few years, or 10 years maybe. I changed the pickups in it, and then if I basically had it set up so if I hit a string, my high E string would get caught on the little screw for the pickup, and
Would
so
it go?
no, it would just
No,
it would
it's
just
just
lock.
tang.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
that's not good.
then it would mess everything up, and I haven't fixed it. I just went back to my other guitar, and have been using that, but I need two guitars just in case, and so I finally today.
Wait, are you bringing a second guitar with?
Yes,
Should I bring
am.
a second bass with?
I don't know.
Because
but
mine may break. Sometimes that happens. Ooh, maybe there will be. Okay, go on. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's
I'd
some
love
of
to
the
bring a
stuff I did.
second one. And you fixed the coffee grinder too.
That's right, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't do that today.
No, but you know that's really neat.
$5 part. So I don't know. It was an expensive grinder. It was like around $100, wasn't it?
Yeah,
We've had it for
yeah,
years.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I took it apart. It wasn't grinding well, and then I took it apart, and then I broke a little piece of plastic clip off of a kind of holder thing on it, and apparently it was the last. There were 3 clips, and when I was opening it up to clean it and fix it, I think what happened? I put something. I can't remember. Oh, but the company, and then I looked online, and the company had, it's like a $5 part, and they said, oh, this part is built to break because basically if somebody puts something in the grinder like a rock or a nail, and then they showed a picture on this video, they showed pictures of stuff that they've pulled out of their coffee grinders. And it's stuff like nails and earrings and rocks. And so this part, apparently, if instead of ruining what is it called? The burr, right?
Right, because it's a burr grinder.
Yeah. What'll happen is it'll catch on the rock, for instance, that you've accidentally dumped into your grinder, and it'll lock up, but then the plastic ring will snap, as
It's
opposed
kinda
to
like a circuit
snapping.
breaker.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
opposed to snapping the $80 burr or whatever.
That's
The
nice.
most of the price of this thing, I think, is that special grinder part. And so, yeah, and then I ordered the part from the company, and it was only $5. It actually cost more to the shipping was more than the part. And then I put it in, and the grinder it's grinding much better. I'm like, wow. I remember I was trying a larger grain on my espresso because I read something that like you don't have to make it into this very fine
Powder, yeah.
But then, but then the more I looked at it, I was like, then once I fixed it, it was like, and I went to the setting I normally go to, and it was like, oh, is this fine powder again? And then I had the espresso made with that. It was much better. And then I realized, oh, I think this had been broken for a while, and it was progressively turning into a more kind of traditional coffee ground that I was making espresso with, which started making me think that I wasn't getting enough caffeine. Like I was basically just drinking brown water instead of getting my caffeine. But I don't think that was 100% true.
So the times that I've accidentally left it on the lowest grinding, the espresso grinding, and then ground my coffee to make coffee in the morning, that tastes like brown water. It's like it's got to be big, thick pieces for me, like
oh
bark.
yeah. No, yeah.
Oh. So, are you excited for your sleep study?
If it ever happens. I've been
see if my mom.
I've been on a what is it? It's over 6-month journey to try to just get this sleep study done. And so I went to no, it's been like a year. So not a year. I went to my regular doctor. Yeah, so my regular doctor's appointment in July, and then I had to get a appointment with the pulmonologist, and that took until November. Actually, maybe it wasn't November. I don't know how long it was, and then I saw him, and then he was like, okay, we'll set you up for a sleep study. And then the sleep study, I think it was the sleep study was supposed to be in November. And he said, oh yeah, and in insurance, it's going to be hard to get them to pay for a overnight sleep study. You're probably going to have to use a take-home test, or we'll have you do a take-home test. And then the sleep study center here set up an appointment for me. Yeah, at the beginning of January, right? Yeah, I think it was for
It's been a long journey.
an overnight study. And then they called me, they made the appointment for January, but then they called me and said, yeah, no, your insurance company's not going to pay for an overnight, in facility study. You're going to have to do a take-home one. And then I'm like, okay. I thought that was what I was supposed to do anyways. I don't think the pulmonologist actually even wanted to try. And so then they were like, but we're having a problem with your insurance. You can drive. Oh no, that was it. They couldn't do the overnight study here in town because of the insurance. And so they set up an appointment for me to go to a hospital in a town 30 minutes away. And so I would drive out to this town and sleep overnight in the hospital and get the test done. And then the insurance company said, we're not going to pay for that either. And then they set up a take-home test appointment for April here in town, where I go to the sleep studies place here, pick up a test, put on all the gear, and then bring it back the next day, right? And then they called me like a month ago and said, we're still having problems with the insurance company just in general, negotiating with them. And so, but you can drive to this hospital 30 minutes away and pick up a test, bring it home, and then bring it back there. And so that's where I'm at now. Next week. 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be driving to Eureka, Illinois to pick up a test on Good Friday, and I'll be returning it, driving back
on
the
Good
next
Saturday.
day. Yeah.
Jeff says, as if you could sleep in a hospital anyhow.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although what they said was, don't drink any caffeine. You can't drink any caffeine that day. I'm like,
oh, you're going to have a headache.
I'm going to have a headache.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But when I've done that before, not drank coffee, you take an Advil.
Are you supposed to take an Advil with a sleep study? What are they checking to see? Because I could tell them that you snore. I know we both snore. But what are they going to find out?
I don't know. Maybe nothing. We'll find out. That's the whole point of it, I think, is they're going to find out if there's anything wrong with me. This is why I don't. I mean,
I know. I'm sorry. I'm making fun of you. I'm not making fun of you.
Well, you are kind of.
I'm trying to make fun of you, like in like a medical sort of way, like when
Yeah.
I used to say I've got breast cancer, like as a joke.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like when I would do that.
Yeah, and you didn't do it.
That's right.
All right.
So it's a little different. It would be like if I made fun of you for having cancer or going to the doctor because you were worried about having cancer and I made it a joke. No. But this
what are they going to do?
This is not as serious as cancer.
Well, no, like if you do have sleep problems, which you do, obviously, like
I had sleep problems today, I believe. Right?
Yeah,
Was it today?
yeah,
I woke up at freaking 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And could not get back to sleep.
So like, are they going to?
But that's the thing is like the past 4 days I've been able to sleep through the night. So I don't know what freaking happened last night where it's like 4 a.m. I'm wide awake.
Did you have any extra caffeine?
No.
Huh.
Well, I don't understand why caffeine would.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem
mess with
falling asleep.
Yeah. Well, doesn't it, like, I always feel like it wakes me up. Like I could drink, like, if I'm like, oh, forget the 2:30 deadline, I'll just have another cup of coffee. I know it's 5 o'clock, or I'll have a Coke, at 7 o'clock, like with dinner or something. And then like the next, like I fall right asleep right at 11 or 12 or whatever. But then I wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, I'm ready to go now,
But I've talked about this already on the show. I did, I have not, this is not, me just randomly deciding that I've got a problem or that I need to, I did things like over the summer. I didn't drink coffee for a month.
Oh, right. You've done
remember?
a whole bunch of tests. Yeah.
I did a month where I was doing a huge amount of, exercise.
Right.
And
that didn't help either.
Yeah. It didn't change this problem. So it's not like I'm just kind of randomly deciding that I need to go to the doctor and figure out why I'm having problems sleeping. I've been exploring other pathways and going through the different things you're supposed to do to, try to figure out what the problem is.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not me.
Well, that was the thing too, is you went away for a week to visit your parents, right?
That's true.
And I still had the same problem. So yeah. Okay. So that was another thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's just getting old. My grandmother, I remember, Grandma Valentin, I don't think she ever slept in the time I knew her.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what my dad would say. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't think she sleeps.
Yeah. I feel like I've
talk about how she'd be up at 4 a.m. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably genetic is basically I'm Grandma Valentin.
I've slept through the night probably once in the past 15 years. Probably more than that, like, 20 years, because our kids are 20. Our oldest is 20. I don't.
Well, that's the thing is I thought I sort of fell on the side of my mom's side of the family, which are good sleepers. Like my mom sleeps still, she's in her 80s and she gets a good night's sleep. She's not, sleeping for 3 hours. She's sleeping a good amount of time. Yeah. And so, I thought I was that side of the family in terms of sleeping, but now it seems like maybe I'm not. So it's a little disturbing.
Okay. All right. So what are you planning on doing in the summer?
Oh.
What exciting things? Because you're a professor.
That's
you're only how many total hours of sleep do you get per night? Jeff is asking.
It depends. And it's not necessarily, that was the problem too, is sometimes I would be in bed for 7, 8 or 8 hours, but I never felt like I actually slept deeply. It was like, also some of it was like my mind just kind of cranking. So that could just be it. It's just that I just can't stop thinking. And even though I'm half asleep, I'm still thinking. But yeah, no, I can have as little as 4 hours.
You know what
sometimes.
The problem might be?
What?
You don't drink.
I don't drink. Well, that's the thing is drinking suppresses, it you don't get necessarily, you fall asleep, but you don't necessarily get deep, restful sleep.
Yeah.
Alcohol Helps you fall. And that's the thing is I don't have a problem falling asleep. I used to have a problem falling asleep.
No, you don't have
I don't have that problem
No.
anymore.
It's just you have a
I can
problem
lay down.
staying asleep.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's disturbing and different. That's because if it was like stress and me freaking out about stuff, that would have been, oh, I can't sleep. I can't fall asleep. I'm just going to be up all night thinking, right? And that's not what happens. What happens is I conk out and then I wake up. If I go to bed too early, I'm up at 4 a.m, like an old man.
Well, I hope you find out how to fix it.
We'll see. Let's see, what else? Anything else going on?
It's like there's so many things going on that we just can't talk about, like I like just
Secret stuff?
Yeah, just you don't feel comfortable talking about it, right? Like job stuff, like everything's great at work, but like I spent some time like looking through like scholarship applications for stuff and like having to decide who should win the scholarship. And it's like, how can you do that? It's like it's like, X amount of different like scholarship applications and stuff, and I don't, it's very, very hard. There's a rubric or you figure out a rubric. It's just like grading stuff, it's like, how do you grade stuff when everybody's so different, it's rough. The grading stuff, especially for me, is like, I try to come up with a rubric, but something always kind of breaks it, like somebody's been, I don't know, somebody's been programming all this time, and so they've written another program, but it's like I can find stuff wrong with everything and stuff brilliant about everything. And so I wish we didn't have to grade. And I know there are plenty of places that don't grade, or they've tried doing that, and maybe essentially what I'm doing is kind of not grading anyway. I'm just really focusing on delivering content and trying to get people to do stuff. So I guess that's, and not focusing so much on grading. So that's one of the things.
Yeah.
And then there's like just, yeah. All right. Well, should we close early? Because I don't have anything else to talk about. Like I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm scared also driving up to Minneapolis. People keep telling me there's gonna be tornadoes all around here.
Well, we're not going to be here.
I know we're not going to be here, but our offspring will be here, right?
Oh.
I'm worried about leaving our offspring here in the tornadoes. And I'm also worried about driving in like a snowstorm, but I guess we've done that before.
Yeah, I mean,
do you think
severe outbreak potential? Actually, it looks like we'll be leaving the severe outbreak potential area.
We will be
driving up there.
But our children will not.
Well, they're going to be at the house here.
Yeah, they'll have to go in the basement. They'll have to actually go. I was talking to the dentist today, or somebody I was talking to. No, I was talking to John Norton, and he was saying, they're gearing up, getting ready for tomorrow night. And tomorrow, like being able to report on the storm. And he was saying that, there's different ways that they have to talk about the incoming storms and stuff, and the different things they have to say and everything like that. And talking about just how, like, it's nice that we have a local radio station, right?
Yep.
With people who live here. It's not just a box in Kansas, like, delivering us information. Like, we actually have a nice NPR station here that we will have, the kids tune into, probably, or I'll tune into it also. So that'll be nice.
Yeah.
All right, well,
I guess we've done 50 minutes. Anybody commenting? No comments. It's
No.
a weird day.
Yeah.
Different time.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of excited about the show, but now if it's just going to be a
Weather
nightmare.
Oh, the Minneapolis show?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think, it's going to be snowing. Well, it's going to be freezing rain and snow, mixed snow there. I'm excited about it too. It'll be great. It'll be fun to play. I don't know what pants I'm going to wear, but it'll be, I don't know what I'm going to wear. I guess I'll have to go look for, like, the pants that okay, I keep seeing women walking around wearing leggings, black leggings, And I wouldn't do that. But they all look good, but I wouldn't wear black leggings. I would worry that my ass would hang out. I don't feel like my legs just showing, just blank, are something that should be shown in public. So I like the more out pants, like the more flouncy pants, like that are not going to cling to me. They're not leggings. So I don't know. Okay, Jeff is saying, must also do sleep study. And then he's saying, keep it on the road. If you can't do it, who can? Oh, yeah.
Michael Heiser. That's the artist, the land artist, City.
Yeah, when are we going to find out? You better look in your spam folder.
Yeah, I'm looking in my spam folder.
Oh, that's what
I don't find anything.
You explain to people what that is, City?
It's just one of those giant land art projects that have been going on for 50 years. So similar to what James Turrell did. It's like these land artists just started going crazy. And, well, I guess it's kind of like Donald Judd. I think Donald Judd was the one who got everyone on the crazy train. But he just bought a bunch. He bought, Marfa. What was in an Air Force base, right? To display artwork.
Talk to you about. Okay,
right. Whereas James Turrell and then Michael Heiser and I'm trying to think who else have been building these giant land art projects for 50 years out in these out there places, and so and I think somebody finally said, we've dumped a huge amount of money into this. You've got to open it. James Turrell's hasn't opened yet.
Right. That's
special people like Kanye, I think, got to go see it. Like special people get to go see the Turrell thing, which I remember reading about. I read about the Turrell thing in the Atlantic magazine. It's entirely possible it's the Atlantic magazine the issue I used to write the song Carvers of New York City. So that would have been like 1986, 87. They were talking about Rodin, right? Crater?
Mm-hmm. Rodin Crater.
Yeah, they were talking about
Rodin.
that. There was an article about that in 1986 about how it was going to be done by 2000 or something, I think. That's what they were saying in the article. It was like unimaginable. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's been working on it for 10 years, and it's like, oh.
Okay, now I remember what I wanted to ask you. Good thing that there's like 7 minutes left. Did you do the interview about art and artificial intelligence?
No, I have to write back. I have to. It means that I have to figure out a time I can do it, and I haven't.
It's not that long. It's just a couple of questions. So here's my question to you. Like, what do you think about art?
Oh, here it is. Here's the response.
Oh.
Not a response. It's the form.
Oh,
okay. It's okay.
So what do you think? What do you think about AI art?
What do I think about AI art?
Yeah, is it art?
Sure. I mean, what is the source?
Could be art.
I mean, this is the thing that people have a problem with. It's like when we talked about this, though, right? It's like, what was it? Somebody did a prompt that was like, make pictures of rich people on a yacht, and they were all white people, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, and so what is the source of the database, right, that it's pulling from, right? It's our culture, and so what it is that all these awful things that we're seeing, and all the biases that show up. That to me is what's interesting, is because it's just a reflection of our culture, our world, right?
Right, exactly. It's to me, the AI is the same as Google. It's just like it's got a framework around it. It's gonna frame your answers for you. It's gonna put it in not like. Well, I want to say in context, but that's not what I mean. I mean, like, it's going to just make sentences out of it for you. You know what I mean? It's going to recombine the words.
Yeah, and so it's
Andy says it's not art. You're wrong.
It's early stages, but like the thing is I don't think art is necessarily the biggest. So what's usually happened, right, is you have I always thought I took this really great class that was about went through the different, avant-garde art movements of the 20th century and then paralleled them with political events, right? And it was almost
that class.
Jonathan Feinberg, but it was not his book.
Right.
It was a book that was kind of based. It was politics and the avant-garde. That may have been what the book was called or something like that.
I seem to remember.
But like connecting, the Dada movement to the end of World War, so after World War One, right, and connecting that and what was going on in Germany, in the Weimar Republic, it's really interesting stuff, and what you got out of it, and it was, I guess maybe there was a lot of bias there, but that idea that the avant-garde kind of was always a canary in the coal mine of what's going to happen in the future, and it was like artists are just kind of always at the cutting edge of trying to figure out and how to navigate these huge cultural shifts that are going on, like with technology, for instance. And then I always thought, well, yeah, conceptual art, like how is that going to go into the mainstream, and how is our world going to be like conceptual art? And then it was like, oh yeah, like what kind of happened with Trump, and kind of that, and then like the NFT stuff, that was where it was like, oh, the CryptoPunks, it was like, oh, this is a cool conceptual art or tech art project where they're talking about what is valuable, right, and value in a digital realm, and like the totally extracting or separating the physical product from value, right? There's no physical
Right.
Thing, and it's like, oh, that's an avant-garde, or to me it was appealing because it was like an art project, right? And it was an art project,
Yeah.
the CryptoPunks thing.
Yeah.
And within 5 years it became an economy for 2 years, right? Maybe at most, right? The crypto NFT economy. But it did move into that. And so what I'm worried about is this kind of acceleration where it's like there's not enough time for the artists to navigate this AI thing because of this acceleration, because of how rapidly things are going, where it's not actually, there's the kind of, if this was 20 years ago, I'd say, oh, AI art, it's important because it's going to be working out, artists are going to be working out these ideas in advance, right, to the experience, or what's going to happen when it kind of infects everyday life.
Right. And so what you mean by the acceleration is that everybody's got access to it now.
It's happening too fast, so it's kind of like your artists, like the canaries in the coal mine, the early adopters are and the difference between the early adopters and then everyone else is the difference is a couple months as opposed to a couple years or a couple decades. And so that to me is what's interesting about AI art is, there's no time for even the artists to kind of develop and work out some of these issues before they impact us. So yeah, I'm not super concerned about it, because artists, it's like photography, but there's going to be huge cultural sea change, and there already is, right? We're already feeling it, where it's just kind of like in academia, where it's just like, oh, what do we do now if everybody's going to write papers? Like our son is, when he's writing papers now for his film classes, he puts in stuff that's weird and unique to him, right? Because he says, I'm doing that so they know that I'm not using ChatGPT to write this, right? It's like, because you kind of have to write the generic stuff in there from what you've read in the textbook, but then he'll add in something out of totally left field or make a weird, crazy connection, which also could be interpreted. Which could be interpreted as AI, like, oh, this doesn't, but it feels like it's a character. It feels like it's a unique human voice,
okay,
right?
Andy's got something here. By my thinking, art is created by someone who has something to say. Computers don't have anything to say. But someone is saying it with a computer, Andy. The prompt has to happen. The person writes the prompt.
It is more, the role of art director. But again, I think that role of art director, like that's what I'm worried about, is kind of this acceleration where it's like that's the relationship I've had when I've played around with AI and generating artwork, is that I'm acting more as an art director, as a person focusing and working with the overall aesthetic and getting it refined.
Okay, now
here's the refining process. But
Yeah.
how long is it going to be before you can replicate that
here's
process with where that's what the AI does also, which is it refines it to a point where it's analyzing the culture and what you want and the audience, and able to just deliver exactly the right thing. Because that would be the argument that's kind of what TikTok's algorithms do. So everybody talks about why TikTok is better than Facebook, because Facebook delivers you content that people like, or YouTube. It's like, oh, I watch this video, and then it goes, oh, other people who watch this video also, and it's kind of like almost like stereotyping. Whereas TikTok, people talk about that algorithm as being like, it sees you, and it doesn't give you stuff that people like you or people who have looked at something else like that have looked at. It kind of sees you, knows you, and delivers you exactly like a reflection of you. It feels like it's a direct kind of.
Have you gotten it to work for you?
No, I don't use TikTok, but
Yeah, I
that's
haven't
what I've
either.
heard people talk about.
I go on TikTok and I see
and you hear people
women
talking
dancing.
about
I don't
but
like
you
it.
hear people I know you gotta if you
Hone it.
use it the way you're supposed to use it,
Yeah.
it gets really hyper focused, and people feel, even to the point where this was like a year ago or something, listening to a whole thing about what TikTok made me buy it or something like that. But that idea where it's like people who never were swayed by online advertising. So, all the crap that would show up on Facebook or anywhere else or any other kind of social media feed, or just, and it's like all of a sudden it was like, I don't know what it was about TikTok, but it would just show me something that I absolutely needed. Right.
So,
And it's a powerful thing. So in terms of AI, right, being able to do that, where it's like, oh, it's like a stupid computer, and it's going to show me a bunch of crap, and then I've got to filter it, I've got to refine it, I've got to get it. And there are artists doing that. I mean, there are artists who have been working over the past decade with AI, and they operate and they tune the AI to create work.
So that brings me
fits
to
their aesthetic ideal, right? They teach, they kind of create this algorithm, or they have it refine to the point where it creates things that they like, and they consider good.
So
right?
Dan is saying, I have friends who are working illustrators and comic book artists with unique styles, and some of the AI art mimics their styles so perfectly, it's bothersome to them when they see people posting things on social media that look like they created it, but they didn't.
Yeah, that's a problem. But so there was also an issue where there were artists who painted portraits, right? And then all of a sudden, photographs started showing up, daguerreotypes, right? And then all of a sudden, portrait painter was not a job anymore, right? And that
That's
role
kind of like
of painter
realism,
changed.
where this is like something maybe somebody came up with, like a style or something, and then this is replicating their style.
And that's,
I guess it's
and
sad.
that's been a problem in the digital realm anyways, right? And then there's appropriation, right? And all those questions, like talk about Warhol again, right? And so that we've been negotiating all that. It's just now it's kind of like we're getting to a point where the question is will you be able to generate anything new though, right? So is it just going to be Ouroboros? It's just going to consume itself, because if your data set becomes static and it's basically drawing inspiration from where the sort of world is now. Let's just say specifically art, where art is right now, and then it's not going to come up with new ideas, but it's just going to be ripping off the past. But you would argue that's already happening within the arts, right? We've already hit that endpoint, but now what's going to happen is that idea of removing the artist's hand from it, right? So Warhol's or maybe pop art's kind of conceit about, the mechanical reproduction, right? And removing the artist's hand. Maybe the next step of that is removing the artist, right? Mm-hmm. And so what does that mean? What does that mean for the arts? What does that mean? What does it mean? Let's talk about it from a music perspective, because this is more realistic. What does it mean for me, for instance, if I can just say at some point, like go onto Apple Music and say, you know what, I want to hear some more I want to hear new Gang of Four records, and basically it just generates new Gang of Four songs, right? That are just as great as entertainment,
well,
right?
Then you'd never have to pay Gang of Four again.
All of everybody else says, oh, just generate me a Radiohead stream, and it's not, or Radiohead circa 19 97, right? Generate, let's do that, right? So that's the problem. It's like, well, why? And I think of myself, it's like, I'm not going to listen to the Radiohead stream, but I'd listen to that Gang of Four stream, if it was just constantly generating music that evokes and is as good, but it won't be as good, right? Because the reason why I love that is not just because of the sound and the arrangements and the lyrics, it's because of the moment and how it resonated and resonates. But that's where it gets scary, right? Is where why would you need to create any new art?
You heard it here, folks. The future of art is computer programming.
Well, no, that's the other problem. Is right now the AI is not that great at refining itself and programming its own algorithms, right?
But after a while,
But it will.
Andy's
Yeah.
saying it wouldn't be Gang of Four. It wouldn't say anything. If it's not saying something, it's not art. He's saying.
So
Donald Judd.
what we're at is what did I call him? Did I not call him Donald Judd? Did I call him something up?
No.
So I'm thinking about the uncanny valley. So you talk about the uncanny valley. There's kind of an uncanny valley that's going to happen, whereas all this AI art right now is either derivative or shit. At some point, it will get to the point where it'll push past that and be able to emulate and do, refine itself to the point where you say, wow, I didn't, this sounds like a Gang of Four outtake. I really like this. And this is as good as anything that's on entertainment, right? And yeah, it's not Gang of Four. It doesn't say anything, but we push through that moment of sort of stuff that's not quite right to where it gets refined.
Okay.
To exactly right.
When I was so just even thinking about all this made me think of that Corey Archangel, and I posted it on Facebook. Like just the gradient, it was just like he used Photoshop to create a gradient, and that's in the Whitney, right? That's collected by the Whitney. That's kind of like algorithmic art, like,
yeah,
right?
Generated art, generative art, algorithmic art, it's been going on for even before computers,
right. So how with, and then I couldn't remember the name, Solowit, but so how does that all fit into what's the progression between like those algorithmic artists and even Fluxus to AI art?
Well, that's what's exciting, is that's the possibility. So, but I'm kind of worried because of the time compression, right? Mm-hmm. Like so basically, as an artist, usually you can exploit that in between time where it's like you can work with these ideas, push the envelope, right, before it becomes mainstreamed, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas what's happening with AI is it's happening so quickly, right? So if you think about like the CryptoPunk thing, right? So what, blockchain and all that kind of crypto stuff, what started in 2009? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know, but it was a few years before.
Yeah, and it was like 10 years before somebody came up with kind of like the perfect crypto blockchain based conceptual art project, and then within 5 years that became an actual financial instrument, in the same way that and that acceleration is just like pop art, right? It's like, oh, there were a couple of people who were doing pop art, and then all of a sudden it became this explosive trend, and then people were making millions of dollars making pop art, right? And then it became advertising, right? And so that's a common trend. But if it's accelerated to the point where it's like, there's not enough time to kind of define and stake out a territory and extract a career or some money out of for an artist, then I don't know. But my thought would be is like, oh yeah, you're going to have interesting artwork that's built in conjunction with AI, right? People are going to explore that just the same way that. But yeah, it took 40 years for film to become an art form, right? Took how long for people to start considering photography an art form, right? And so the question is that even possible, that kind of path and pattern possible when you have AI?
Well, it will.
And
at
it's
some
accelerating
point it will,
so quickly.
Yeah, but it will have been
exponentially.
Around. It will have been around for 40 years at some point. So
I guess
will
it has been around for 4
yeah,
years.
yeah.
And people have been playing around with it. But it's more, I think there's going to be a huge cultural impact.
Andy is saying, I agree, it will be good enough that people will think it's as good as Gang of Four, but being as good as Gang of Four art doesn't mean it is art.
Yeah.
He's saying that's just going on his definition.
Yeah, that's a philosophical. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, is it art? But that's we've been having those conversations, right, and arguments.
Yeah, forever.
Ever since,
right.
Somebody painted a buffalo on a cave wall, right? Or I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's.
Is it art or design?
Yeah. That discussion's been going on ever since somebody got food for singing a song rather than killing an animal and bringing it back to the tribe, right? It's like, is that art? Why are we paying for it? Why are we feeding this person? All they do is sing songs. They've never killed a warthog in their life and brought it back. Why are we feeding this slacker over here who sits and yodels at us all day?
Because it's food for our heart.
This person who sings stupid songs to us while we're, harvesting.
Oh, wait a minute. They're singing. The first songs would have been like religious songs, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
probably.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It all came from religion.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the first songs created religion. You don't know. You actually don't know.
Ooh.
I mean, it's like,
Ooh.
what about that idea of people singing together collectively, and then what are we singing to, or are we singing to thank the earth or thank a god? That's why, I don't know.
That's another whole nother Radio Zero. What are we singing to? All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Rick.
We got to edit out the middle of this episode.
Yeah, I think we should. Can you?
No.
Oh.